Absolutely. And well, it's funny you mention like Kelly Harrell because he and Henry Witter sort of fit in this, and Ernest Stoneman actually fits in this same sort of category where they are halfway in between. They are folkloric musicians coming from rural traditions and family traditions, but they have aspirations to make records. And so they are coming in trying to make popular records. And so it's interesting that you have folks like that that are a part of this mixture. But then you have people like Wade Ward. It's sort of his first recording session. And I'm so glad that we're getting to hear Wade Ward so early because, of course, most people that are fans of his music know his recordings with Alan Lomax in the 1940s with the Bog Trotters, and then his recordings he did afterward, part of the 1960s folk revival, and particularly with Folkways recordings. So it's interesting to hear him in such an early passage. It's almost like an archaeological find that we're hearing an early recording. And then, of course, the song Married Man's Blues is this very interesting pre-blues style of old time banjo number, which is really exciting to hear as well because it gives you a reflection of the repertoire he has. But then also you have acts like the Four Robinson Carolina Club Orchestra, which is an utterly commercial college uh, dance orchestra. And this is very reflective of the type of music that was popular in the post World War I era, going into the 1920s. Even the song I loved, which is Collegiate, uh, they are actually proclaiming that they are young guys that are breaking away from the traditions of old in terms of fashion. They're wearing baggier clothes and they're wearing flapper outfits and they're not wearing garters like they did in the 1890 in the gay 1890s. And they are proclaiming that the 1920s is here to stay. So it's even interesting that the sentiments are very progressively minded as well as being built on tradition. So it's like, again, we're having this sort of push and pull. And then, of course, there are the wonderful fiddle numbers that are accompanied by both the banjo as well as the piano. When we have people like J.D. Harris, also J.D. McFarlane and daughter. And then, of course, we have people like Jim Couch, who is this very interesting harmonica performer that leads us into some of the sessions that would follow this 1925 Asheville session. Of course, we think of Bristol as being the birthplace of country music, and harmonica players are a part of that session, and they are a part of the sessions that follow into Johnson City, Knoxville, and then later on in 1928 when D. Ford Bailey makes his first recordings in Nashville, we're seeing sort of a snowball effect that is beginning with this Asheville session. So it's something that's really exciting about all of these recordings, just to be able to see the beginning of the snowball effect. What's wonderful about it, what we know now in the 21st century is that we can we can go beyond the surface. Of course, African American performers were not necessarily featured as the performers themselves, but that doesn't say that there was an influence that is showing up in every performance in some form or another. I've taken some notes here just to kind of break it down a little bit because it is kind of it's sort of a heady idea of how to break this down. First off, um, from 1900, when strict segregation became federal law, everything became separate but equal, and that includes making of records. And so recording sessions were segregated as well. And slowly and steadily, you had integration in recording studios. That's why by the 1960s, when there were groups like Booker T and the MGs that are mixed race groups, that's why these are innovative groups, because up to that point, marketing, recording sessions, all of those things were strictly segregated unless there was an exception to the rule. Taylor's Kentucky Boys, very early on, our example. Um, uh, Andrew Baxter playing with the Georgia Yellowhammers in the late 1920s. Jimmy Rogers in 1931 playing with the various black groups that he played with, the Louisville Jug Band, Louis Armstrong and Lil Hardin and Luke Jordan. You had exceptions that would come along the line. But for the most part, the rule was white recording sessions were for white performers, black recording sessions were for black performers. But that's how they did everything. So any type of ethnic group, if it was Greek music recording sessions, it was Greek recording sessions, Polish recording sessions. So if we think about that, that's one of the reasons why you're not seeing black performers themselves. So